Welcome to everyone watching. My name's Tim Sweeney. I'm leading global communications at Salomon. This is our first time trying this press conference with all our running athletes. So thanks first to the athletes for being here. I'm going to explain just how this will work for everyone watching online. So first of all, thanks for jumping through our IT hoops, which I know can be challenging, but we appreciate it. I guess the season's just about to kick off. It's been going on for some of you already and others not dry land sports, but our entire international running team is here in Annecy this week, kicking off a training camp. They'll spend a couple days here at the Annecy Design Center, home of Salomon, and then on a ferry tomorrow night, correct? To Corsica for most of them for some training. So this next couple days consists of a lot of product sort of feedback and that sort of thing with our design teams here in Annecy. Just how the questions are going to work, you're going to type them into the chat, as you've probably figured out now online. And we've got a monitor here, Jules, my trusty sidekick, and we'll pose the questions to the athletes as we go along. I know it'd be easier to ask them verbally, but this prevents screaming children, barking dogs, etc. in the background. So thanks for playing along. Again, please, if you can, try to type your questions in English, because there's a lot of people tuning in from all around the world. And that's, of course, the common language, I would say, for the people attending. So for the benefit of everyone, we'll answer where possible in English and in French as well, of course. So yeah, I think we put an example in the chat, Jules, on how to pose your question to the athlete, and then we'll relay it. But I'll go through who we have up here first, starting at the end. Floria Madalina, is that correct? I said this correct. So Floria's from Romania, former very successful track and road runner at 5,000 and 10,000 meters, half marathon as well. And she began mountain running and trail running in 2019, won the Golden Trail World Series finale in Italy last year. So thanks for being here. Malin Ossa, how are you? Malin had a very successful 2023 season. She finished fourth at the Dolomites, fourth at Pikes Peak Ascent, fifth at Mammoth, and overall fourth place on the Golden Trail World Series. And she's only 21 years old. Remy, he's been with us for a while. You're a veteran now. He was the young guy. Now he's a veteran. No, you're not old, but you're... So yeah, always known as one of the best climbers. I think most people know Remy. Broke the Pikes Peak Ascent record last year, won the Golden Trail World Series overall title. He's won at Zagama, Marathon de Mont Blanc, Pikes Peak, of course, more. And as a skimo racer, he's won the individual world championships in 21 and 23. Correct? Did I miss anything? This year too. I'm not up to date, sorry. And Sophia Lauchley, she's from the US, from Maine. Sophia is winner of the 2023 Golden Trail World Series as well, and along the way she won Marathon de Mont Blanc, Sierre-Zinal, and also a member of the US Nordic ski team, so just finished one season, moving into another. Thanks for being here. I know your schedule's crazy. Moving down to Annecy Kemener, she's from France. Thanks for being here. She's also a nursing assistant, joined the Salomon running team in 2022. And Manet's story is pretty incredible. She's a breast cancer survivor, served as quite an inspirational story to a lot of people. She recovered from that to be crowned French marathon champion in 2016 and again in 2022. She ran 2:29 marathon in Berlin last year, 2:28 in Seville in February. Thank you for being here. And Maggie Montoya, so she's from the USA, by way of still Boulder. All right. Collegiate runner at Baylor University. You guys won the NCAA title there, I believe. Correct? Not personally, the team. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we never won it.
Oh, bad research. I apologize. So then moved to Boulder, joined the Roots Running Project. Highlights include winning the Brooklyn Half Marathon in 2023, broke the course record at the Gary Bjorklund Half Marathon in Minnesota, correct? 109.26. Thanks for coming. And I'm going with Bart, just like one name, Madonna. So I'm not going to try the last. Predlujeski. No, sorry. Okay. So Bart joined the international Salomon team in 2019. He performed very well during the 2020 Golden Trail World Championships in the Azores. Won hands down over an amazing field that year. Last year he had top 10 finishes at Zagama, Marathon de Mont Blanc, and Dolomites Run. Did I miss anything? No. Thanks everyone for being here. So everyone online, you can type your questions in the chat, and I think we have some already, so I'll step aside and leave it to you guys. So, first question is for Sophia. After your great season, can you talk about jumping into the Golden Trail races in Japan and China, and how ready are you to run?
I think similar to ending the running season last fall after the finals, it was kind of my first go at like 1 week off and right into the ski season, and I'm kind of in a similar boat right now, and it's a lot of mystery mostly. I'm definitely a little bit anxious and nervous to see if I can get into good enough running form. I think going from skiing into running is a lot harder, just muscularly, and yeah, I'm still have my ski fitness, but I'm definitely pretty nervous because I didn't really account for how little time there is, and I finished my last ski race like 3-4 days ago, and Japan is in like 3 weeks, and so it's mostly like a I don't know, we'll find out mentality. I'm gonna try to start running now, and we'll see if it's enough. Yeah.
Okay. So next question for Remy. The question is, will we see you at the start of any ultra marathons in the future?
Yeah, I think so, because if I win like 3 or 4 times the Golden Trail Series, I will have maybe to try something else. But yeah, of course I want to try. Like, I think it's a good challenge for an athlete to see like how far you can go. I think what I am doing now is a part of my career, but there is a bit more to do like in the future, or like in longer distance. So I think not yet, because I have still some races to win in short distance, but then maybe we will move on and try other stuff.
You have any you want to check off on the short distance?
Yes, Sierzinal is always my
The home race.
my dream. Yeah.
Okay. And then another question for you, Remy, is will you try to beat the Pikes Peak full marathon record at some point in the future? That has been...
Yeah, I think it's a good challenge, because like I break the uphill, but I feel that the business is not finished. Like if you see the one before me, like he broke the full marathon, like the uphill and the downhill the same year. So I think I have to take the same challenge as he take in the past, and so I know now that it's possible to do it. So maybe I will go once.
And a question for all the women up there. Your thoughts on all the buzz around Jasmine Paris finishing the Barkley, and how do you think the Golden Trail can keep the momentum going, building the narrative around women in running? So did you see that, the Barkley, that she was the first woman to finish?
Yeah, I saw that she was one of the first women to ever finish that. There was a historic 5 people that finished that race. There's a lot of controversy around that race, where there's not a lot of support of minorities, where there's a hateful speech or a hateful environment is allowed in that proximity. But it was really cool what she did.
And question for the other ladies on the panel about the Golden Trail Series and, like, I guess building the buzz around women in running. Do you feel like that's working with the Golden Trail Series? I know Greg has worked to really elevate these races around the world.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I just got to Golden Trail the last couple of years, but it's really cool to be part of like the same movement of, one, making short trail bigger, but also bringing in the equality of women and men and separating the races because of the mixed or like level of who's being shown. And it's also cool. I'm kind of going through that in the Nordic ski world as well. There's a push for equal distance, and yeah, I think I'm grateful to come into sport pretty late in my, like, I got into professional sport pretty late as like compared to other athletes, and so having the opportunity to go through it when there's a lot more support for women, and yeah, I guess I'm maybe take it a bit for granted, but it's just, yeah, it's cool to see that there's like a universal push for that across all sports, and especially in Golden Trail.
Any question for Melanie?
Nothing to add.
There's a question for you about just your goals for this coming season.
I will try to be in front in the overall of Golden again. The women file is like the level is really high and will be difficult to even maintain my fourth overall. But I'm really motivated and I'm really looking forward to do good races. And I will be first in Asia, then in Segama and in Poland. Hope to get enough points to qualify for the final, and I won't have to go to the US. And yeah, then try to be as best as possible in the final.
Another question for you is, you did great on your first elite season. I guess there was a lot of pressure in the final. How did you cope with that and entering this season? Are you like comfortable with the stage?
Yeah, I find pressure more a gift rather than a bad thing. Like I try to take advantage of this and to I of course know there are better runners than me still in the series, so it's a huge motivation to try to chase them and to be as good as them. So yeah, for me pressure is a good thing, and I try to take advantage of this and try to give my best.
Question for Bart. I believe this is the first season that you spent the winter in Poland. It says you are not a person who loves winter time. Do you believe winter weather condition will help you with your preparations for the season?
Yes, true. I had to change my plan because my son was born in 1st of January. So this winter I spent with family in my hometown. I think it was better for me because maybe I run less kilometer, but the training was more intensity for me, and it's funny because I didn't do any running camp during the winter, but I feel stronger than last year. So I hope this will be a good winter training for me.
A question for Madalena. I'll go slow. You're now running for Salomon. The question is, after last year, do you have raised expectations for yourself, like running with Salomon, and after your performance in the finale last year? How do you feel going into the season?
Good question. It's first time for me for everything. I don't want to put a pressure for myself. I want to enjoy all what it's in front of me. But the big step for me is to don't be injured, and why not to be on the podium in the final again.
And do you have plans for which races you will run already, or you do?
Yes, I think all the athletes, they have a plan. For me, it was change the plan last 4 weeks ago, because in my plan was to go to compete in Asia, but I have a difficult problem and I changed my plan. And the second plan is to compete for a next step in my life is to compete for Mont Blanc Marathon. And then Sierzinal, I want to come back again to try my speed, because this profile, I think it's perfect for me. And USA, where last year gave me the best gift to finish on the podium and to try to, I don't know to explain, but when you finish on the podium, I think show you need to try more to discover yourself. And why not? I try to be the best myself.
Cool, thanks. I'll go for a question in French for Anaïs. So first in English, can you share your plans for the upcoming season and maybe what's your next marathon project? So Anaïs, est-ce que tu peux nous en dire plus un petit peu sur tes plans sur la saison et ton prochain marathon?
Du coup, pour mes prochaines courses, j'ai prévu prochainement de faire le championnat de France de 10 000 mètres en Bretagne le 3 mai, où du coup j'aurai l'occasion aussi de courir avec les chaussures à pointe Salomon. Et pour la suite de la saison, je vais faire quelques courses en trail, mais uniquement pour m'amuser. Et le prochain marathon, ce sera le marathon de Valence, début décembre, où j'aimerais améliorer mon record personnel.
Okay, so Anaïs will start with some track and field competition, the French Championship on 10,000 meters, where she'll have the opportunity to try some Salomon spikes for first, and then she will have some fun on some races along the way before preparing for the next winter, Valencia Marathon in Spain, where she expects to do another PB.
Okay, I'll stick with the road theme for Maggie. Your first time here in Annecy, is that correct? No, second. Wow. What's this like, though, sharing the week with the runners? You have people from all running backgrounds. And also, can you tell us a bit about your upcoming plans for competition?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Last time I was here for 48 hours and extremely sleep deprived, so I'm excited to eventually catch up on some sleep and get to know everybody, especially once it kind of slows down, once we get to Corsica and we're just training. I really look forward to meeting all the people I've heard about but never met in person. As for the rest of my season, been doing some track races, just did the 10K a couple weeks ago, and then as soon as I get back from here, I'll go out to California for 2 back-to-back weekends of like 5Ks, and then try a 10K later on, hoping to get into the Olympic trials for the US, even though the standards have gotten crazy fast, but I'll try my best.
Thanks. A question from Japan for the athletes going there. I guess I can start with Remy and Sophia on any anxiety or excitement to kick off your season in Japan so far from home. Are you going there or no? No. Who's going to Japan? Yeah. So the three of you, could you just touch on that? It's a long way from home to start the season. How do you deal with that? The big travel and then the competition when you arrive. You excited to go? New event?
Yeah, true. It's long travel from Europe to Japan. For me, it's like 24 hours by plane, so it's gonna be crazy travel there. We will be there 1 week before the race, so I hope we will get time to be recovery for the race.
Yeah, for me, I think part of the reason I choose races is because I'm excited about the location, and I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to go to Japan, and so for me that was like a really big or exciting thing for me. And I don't know, travel, my life is essentially all travel, and so that's not necessarily daunting. I'm definitely more just nervous about the race itself, but I think what's cool is with many of the Golden Trail races, at least personally, is the result matters, but a lot of it has to do with seeing these new places, and it can still be a really cool and fun experience racing on trails you're never going to race again. So that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, the same. You never know when you will have another opportunity to go so far to the trails. So in addition, I think it's a good race for me, taking into account it's a short one and also really technical. So adding the Japanese experience to that, I think it's the perfect start for the season.
A question specifically to Sophia in terms of balancing your objectives for the year between skiing, which you said you just finished 2 weeks ago, I think, and running. Do you have main goals or specific goals for each sport, or one overall plan for your year? You divide them up?
I think it's very much as I take it as it comes, because it's hard for me to plan out months in advance when I don't know how my ski training is going to be in 2 months from now, but a lot of my training and everything is still dictated by skiing, and it's building in the running races into that. And then I've learned that you just have to be able to adapt. And that's the whole thing with doing two sports now is I tried to bring more running into my ski season so that I could have a smoother transition. And so, yeah, I think I'm planning to do these first two races, and the rest of the season is like completely up in the air because, yeah, I think I keep building and building, and I've had a lot of improvements in the ski season this year, and that gave a lot of motivation for ski season next year. And so it's really hard to try to make it to the top in both. And that's like the lingering over my mind, and like how can I possibly do that? And I don't have an answer. It's just like, we'll see.
Similar question to Remy, who's doing heavy ski-mo training. Specific questions, so I'll fire them off. How much vert in an average week of training for you? How much vertical?
Yeah, in the total year, I do like a bit more than 500,000, so between 500 and 600,000. So I don't know, you can calculate, but I cannot do like per week. It's depend.
Divide by 52. Okay. Math assignment for the journalist who asked that question. How do you feel physically at the moment? And then do you do any specific training to prepare yourself mentally to dig deep in a race? That's a question I guess anyone could answer.
Yeah, I think like with the time, like when you get a bit older, you get used to the high volume of training and to do like 2 seasons in a row. Like for me now, it's quite normal to don't take much breaks between the 2 seasons. I think you have to be clear in your mind at the start of the year that it will be like no rest during the year between skimo and trail. And I think it's shown that the body can adapt in every situation. Like you can be tired, but you can still perform at the highest level. And for me, it's a good challenge to be at the top of the skimo world and also at the top of the trail running world. So I think it's why I am training really hard now.
A question for the trail runners. Who will we see at the Tatra Sky Marathon in Poland? I have a feeling one person for sure will be there. Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, I think it's not sure, but maybe.
Okay. Your thoughts on that? Well, Bart, that's a hometown race in a way for you. What are your thoughts on racing at home? It's got to be pretty cool for you. You've raced in South Africa, everywhere, but now at home.
Yeah, it's actually not my hometown because it's in Poland. It's a place where my friend Marcin lives, and we are so proud that we have a race in Poland. We prepare everything what we could for August to have a good runner like who's sitting here, and I think we will represent the best what we have in Poland.
Yeah, I was really happy when I saw this race because I think I can do a really good race there. It's quite short, and I know the place is beautiful, so it's another opportunity, another experience to know different places. And in addition, I heard it's quite technical as well at some point. So yeah, I'm happy, and also will be less competitive maybe and easier to get points because it's close to Sierre-Zinal. And everyone knows Sierre-Zinal is like the star race of Golden many times. So, yeah, it could be a good one to get points.
Another question in English and then French for Anaïs. You've been having a lot more visibility in the media recently, of course, based on your performance. Then the movie we have done on your story being inspiring on so many ways, the night shifts at hospital or just the fight against cancer or the performances. How do you feel about connecting with the communities and the fact that they mentioned you're inspiring them? Donc Anaïs, je voulais savoir un petit peu, cette année a été importante pour toi et tu as beaucoup plus d'exposition médiatique par tes performances, par aussi le film qu'on a pu faire ensemble, montrant ton rythme de vie, les nuits à l'hôpital ou le combat contre le cancer, ou même le groupe La Meute. Toutes ces nouvelles personnes qui ont commencé à te suivre sur les réseaux mentionnent que tu les as inspirées. Comment toi tu as réagi face à ça, cet engouement aussi récent autour de toi, et comment tu réagis à ces personnes qui te suivent désormais?
Alors déjà, je
je reçois énormément de messages effectivement depuis le reportage Salomon, plus aussi maintenant le livre et les performances que je fais, parce que je fais quand même pas mal de courses, j'enchaîne pas mal. Je sais pas exactement, en tout cas ce que le côté médiatique, moi je l'ai pas réellement recherché. J'ai plutôt voulu partager mon histoire, partager mon parcours. Et aujourd'hui, je me vois plutôt comme une athlète qu'une ancienne malade, parce que j'ai réussi à passer à autre chose. Mais je suis vraiment très contente de pouvoir le partager et que ça puisse inspirer d'autres personnes.
Thanks. So actually, I've indeed just wanted to share my story, not willing to be exposed mediatically, but indeed it happened that it has been inspiring a lot of people. So of course through the movie, and now Annecy is as well releasing a book about a story. So it just happens, and she's just indeed happy to be able to share, inspire those aspects of her life, and especially being a top athlete now and focusing on the performance now she is healthy.
I'm going to stick with the road running again for Maggie. I believe you're studying now, is that correct? Curious then how you mix these things with, how do you keep your focus from one to the other? Is it a nice break to focus like your brain on studies and then on training, and how do you juggle that?
Yeah, I think for me, like throughout my whole running career, I love running and I want to run for the rest of my life, but I love finding happiness and fulfillment in other areas of my life. And I was for a long time working a job that I liked, but it got me through the races. I finally decided to go back to school. I'm getting my master's in public health with a concentration in biostats and epidemiology. So I'm really looking forward to doing work that I'm really excited about and stuff that I'm excited about outside of running. But in terms of the balance, it's a lot. It's like I run in the morning, come and do school for several hours a day, and then it's less than a full-time job, but it's definitely quite a commitment. But I love it, and I think I enjoy the balance in my life.
Question for the trail runners is how you feel about the growing media interest in trail and ultra running. I guess some of you came from a road background, so how do you feel about that? Can the media do a better job of telling your stories to raise the profiles of trail and ultra runners? It's maybe a long question in English, so one of you guys could take it first.
I mean, for me, I've only been in the trail world where there has been this growing media movement, so I don't really know what it was like before. But I can compare it a bit to the ski world, and for me, it's like I get excited about getting into the trail season because I think it does do such a good job at making or like showing our stories and showing each individual athlete. And yeah, I've been so impressed by the media presence of it, and I think, I'm sure like just a couple of years ago it was completely different. But it's funny to hear from a lot of skiers that I'm with in the winter how like now they're fans of trail running because they've watched it because of me, but then are so impressed with the media and everything that's, like the TV series. And now that a lot of the races are covered on TV, I've only heard how cool that is and how impressive that is, especially, like having content when you're just out in the middle of in the woods on a random mountain. I think it's really cool to be able to portray that and actually show it to the public, where that's probably not always been the case.
Remy, Bart, you guys are, I didn't call you old. I
I feel a bit the same as Sophia. Like if I compare to my other sport in winter, like it's like if you compare it, like trail is like we have superstar and skimo is a bit like a small sport. Even if it's going to the Olympics now, it's not the same. Like it's not in the television and there is not a lot of crowds doing the races. And so for us, it's really good. Like for example, the Golden Trail, I see the evolution from the beginning, because I think I won the first stage of the first Golden Trail in 2018, I think. So that's I think they move really far, like in the media stuff and in the lives and everything. And it's I think it's good steps for us also, because now we have more visibility for the brands, so we have better contracts with the brands also. So for us, it's just a bonus. And also during the races, we feel that that there is more and more people coming to watch. So it's really good for us.
Yeah. Also, we are something like actors. So media are to show people how we fighting between others in a competition. So I think there are a connection between athletes and people who cheering us.
Madalena, a question for you. You mentioned on your Instagram a few weeks ago about improving your downhill running, and that is a goal for you this season. What are you doing in training to work on improving your downhill running?
First step, it's for me, yes, to improve the downhill. I think I opened a barrier because in my mind I was afraid because I come from the road. And the first step is to enjoy. And I have a good mentor to show me how it's possible to run fast on the downhill. But the first step is to enjoy.
Thank you. Again, English and then French question for Anaïs. Is there any chance to see you on trail running competitions? Est-ce qu'on a une possibilité de te voir sur des compétitions de trail running? Des vrais?
Sur de vrais trails, comme tu dis, je pense pas énormément. Je vais quand même faire le 16 km de la Femina Race à Annecy, fin juin, je crois. Et ensuite, j'aimerais bien faire Sierzinal. C'est vrai que c'est une course que j'aimerais bien faire par la suite, mais en ayant un peu plus d'entraînement.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the plan, but maybe a few races like Femina Race in Maxi Race event in Annecy at the end of May, and potentially in the future Sierzinal in Switzerland, which is kind of inspiring race. So not a focus, but for sure maybe some in the future.
Okay, we have a product question for everyone. That is a couple of them. Which shoe are you training in now, and what will you use for races this season? And with that, what kind of features in running shoes matters the most to you? Is it propulsion, cushioning, responsiveness, or something else? It's not our question. The journalist asked this. It's not a planted question.
I'm a pulsar lover. Like I train and I race almost everything with pulsars, and I find like especially I like technical stuff, so I find it's really important to have a really stable shoe, more than maybe. Of course, I'm racing still short races, so maybe cushioning is not like the key point for me. But having something stable in technical stuff, I think it really can make a big difference on a technical terrain.
For me, it's very simple because I like a lot all. It's first time for me when I wear this brand, and for me, in the final, give me the best gift with Salomon shoes. I think it's perfect shoes for me, all of them.
We did not tell her to say that. Anyone else have anything interesting about the shoes for the road running?
I guess for the road, I really like the Aeroglides. I do almost everything in the Aeroglides. They're very comfortable. They last a long time, which I find really important in a shoe. Like they hold up to the mileage, and I still feel good in them for a long time. And then I race in this shoe, which I really enjoy because it's not an aggressive super shoe, but it's quick and it helps. I feel like it's helps with recovery, not tearing up your legs. So I've really enjoyed being in the shoes.
There is a follow-up question for each of you. What is the one bit of running kit you could not live without? Shoe is an obvious one, but is there something sneaky that you have that you rely on?
My cheetah glasses, which are not Salomon, so maybe that's the wrong answer. But I mean, Yeah.
You do hide behind those sunglasses
Yeah.
pretty well.
I think my sunglasses are a big part of my race day kit. I think about it a lot. About how to coordinate my outfit with my sunglasses.
Yeah, no, I think the shoes, because like without shoes you cannot go anywhere.
Nothing else? Question, Remy, who do you think your main competition is for this year's series, and what drives you and keeps you motivated? Well, you have to name names. This is a pressure question.
For which race?
For the series overall, yes.
I
You
hope
can list them by
I
race
hope
if you-
nobody, but no, there will be many. Like we see the two Kenyan guys last year, who are really strong runners, and I think they train a bit more the uphill this winter. I hope. So I think they will catch up a bit longer, and I will try to be a bit better than last year. But yeah, I think I am thinking of these two, and who knows? There is always some guys coming from nowhere, so we will see.
Okay, just a couple more for you guys, and then we'll let you go. Let's see. Question for everyone who runs on the Golden Trail World Series. With the amount of media produced by Golden Trail World Series and the travel, how do you find time to train? This is a question for all of you, I guess. How do you find the time to fit in training around the races when you're moving around from place to place? Is it difficult to plan that schedule? Is it about recovery? Once you get into the season?
Yeah, I think you can have time to train like between the races, because we are not doing all the races of the calendar, so you can pick your races and plan with your coach when you can train. So it's not a problem to train between the races.
Any more? Let's see. I guess we'd just like to know, we've had a few questions about what races you plan to run. Can you each share what's upcoming? Some of you have, but can you tell us your schedule, or are you not ready to share? Or just what's coming up?
Yeah, so I will take part in the Golden Trail World Series this year. It will be a race in Japan, Kobe Trail, then Zegama Ice Quarry, Mont Blanc Marathon, of course, race in Poland, and probably one race in US. So 5 races in Golden Trail World Series, and I hope the final.
Outside of the track races, unfortunately the trials falls on the same weekend as Grandma's, so I probably won't be going back there. But for the fall, my plan is to do the New York City Marathon. While I'd love to go for a PR, that course is notoriously difficult. But it's one that I've wanted to run, just as being one of the majors, and I've done the 5K championships that are the day before for several years, and so I'm excited to finally get the chance to run that marathon.
You're planning for tes courses pour cette année?
Ah, ok. Je sais pas s'il fonctionne, si c'est bon. Pour les prochaines courses, du coup, comme je disais tout à l'heure, je vais faire le championnat de France de 10 000 mètres au mois de mai. Au mois de juin, j'aurai la Femina Race de la Maxi Race sur Annecy. Ensuite, je ferai des petites compétitions, comme le semi-marathon du Mont Ventoux, donc un peu particulier, avec distance du semi-marathon avec 1700 mètres de dénivelé. Et j'ai prévu de m'amuser un petit peu cet été sur des courses comme ça.
I think my schedule is up for changing, but I will start the year with the 2 races in Asia, and then I really want to do Zegama, but I don't know if I can turn it around in time for that. I am for sure going to do Mont Blanc again, and also pretty set on Sierre Zinal, and then who knows if I'll race Poland if I need to. I hope I don't have to go to the US, but yeah, that's the thing with Golden, is you kind of have to change as the season goes.
Yeah, I think I will start normally in Mont Blanc Marathon, maybe in Zegama, if I feel good. But with the 2 seasons, I have to take a break, so we will see how I feel. And then the big goals will be against Yazinal, as every year. I hope I will may make it this year. So this and then the USA and maybe the Poland before. And I think I will try OCC this year, so a bit longer. And the final, I hope so.
I think I've mentioned before, but I will go to Asia, and then I will do my first marathon in Segama at home. And I will go to Poland, and yeah, it's not in my plans going to the US, so hopefully I get enough points in those 4 races to go to the final. And then I'll do like other small races to keep the motivation and to keep the shape, but not as special as Golden, I guess.
My first competition, it's European Championship here in the end of the May. Then Mont Blanc Marathon, big step for me. Sierzinal, maybe Poland, if I feel good or no. And trip in USA and the final, I hope.
Great. Well, thank you all. Appreciate the time. I know you guys have a busy couple of days here and then off to Corsica to run together, most of you. So thank you. We're going to take like 5-minute break and then have the ultra athletes come in. So Courtney, Francois, everyone will be here in just a couple minutes. So thank you all for your time. Much appreciated. Have a good season. I'm back. I feel like doing a comedy routine now. I'm going to skip the bios because I think people know everyone. Will get right to the questions. But I went through Matthew, Courtney, Francois, Martina, Lucy, Ryan, all here. You guys know your bios, right? I don't have to repeat them, and I think everybody knows who you are. So let's get to the first questions. Okay. Courtney, there's a question about the Barkleys. Now that the first woman finished the Barkleys, will you go back to Frozen Head? And if so, what shoe would you wear for a race like the Barkley, like mostly off trails? What did you think of the accomplishment?
Jasmine Paris being the first female to ever finish the Barkley was really, really cool. I was for sure glued to the Twitter feeds, refreshing it for those 3 days that she was out there. And am so impressed by her and thankful for her in just blowing the roof off the thing and showing us what's possible. For sure, I'm still intrigued about those woods and what I could do out there. I would love to be destroyed by the course mentally and physically. And I think I'd wear the S-Lab Genesis.
But stick with what works.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question for Lucy. We saw you race the Ironman World Championships in Kona last year. Did you learn anything from doing Ironman in that race that you think will help you in your running season this year?
Yeah, I really loved using the triathlon style of training. I think it made me really strong and not outrun my love of running. To share between swimming and cycling felt really healthy, and I stood on the start line of UTMB super stoked to spend a day just running, and then to get to Kona and be just kind of excited to maybe run a little bit less and cycle and swim on that day. So it's definitely something I'll be using moving forward. And I think it makes you super strong and really a well-rounded athlete. So it's been a really cool addition to my training.
Question for Mathieu. Where are you training this year? Do you have plans to come back to Canada? And will we see you at the Western States 100?
This year is a new year for me. I will try to do really different than the other year. I used to travel a lot because I was kind of new in this sport, and having opportunity to travel when you are invited in nice countries, you always accept. But I discovered that traveling is very painful for the body and for the hormonal system. When you travel on a new time zone, more than 6 hours is very difficult for the body. You have 10 days to feel good when you go back, and then you go back, you again have 10 days to feel good when you go back to home. So I want to try something new this year, staying around my place all year, don't travel that much. So I'm not sure I will go back to Canada this year. I will try to enjoy my new environment in the Alps and train there with all the sports we can do around. And maybe the only travel I will do in the year is going to the Réunion Island for the Diagonale des Fous in October. But this year is a home year around my home.
Question for Francois, kind of about in-race mentality. At what point in the race, when the legs are gone and it's not a physically enjoyable experience anymore, where do you find meaning and motivation that would be helpful to a mere regular person, just a regular runner? How do you overcome the impulse to stop?
I try to convince myself that it's just normal to have this kind of feelings, because when you run 100 miles and more than 20 to 30 to 40 to, I don't know, for some of them 50 hours, it's normal that you are very painful. So I try just to laugh about it and to say, okay, I choose it. It's a pleasure for me. It's just a sport. So I try to have like a secondary degrees and to think that it won't be eternal. So I try to say, okay, if there's some low, there will be some high. If there's some high, maybe it's not normal, so wait for the low. And so I just try to continue to go ahead and yeah, normally I try to train to have at least less moments like that, but yeah, I think in ultra it's always normal that you have some pain moment.
And since you have the mic, another question for you is, and maybe Ryan as well, you've had a tough time with some injuries over the past couple of years. Were there any silver linings to having injuries for each of you that you learned anything from? It's for both of you guys, yeah.
Yeah, injuries always suck at the time, or setbacks, but I think yeah, I've always found I've learned from them, and you come back super motivated. I think when something gets taken away from you, you realize how much you miss it and how much you enjoy it. So I've always come back pretty refreshed, and I mean, I guess, like I said, definitely not at the time am I grateful to be injured or have a setback, but I think afterwards, looking back, I found like I've always actually been forced to evolve and grow as a person through setbacks.
Yeah, I think it's true. It's better to don't be injured, but if you have to, because you don't always choose it, it's true that then you go back with extra motivation. And last year I had big injury, and it was a bit long. So now I discover, I knew that, but I discovered that maybe most important than pushing and try to win some races, the most important thing is to be able to play in the mountain and to be outdoor. So now, okay, I will try to win again. Of course, I will try to do my best in the race. But maybe I enjoy even more just like a long training, like be able to be at the training camp this year. Instead of last year, I was there, but I was not able to run with all the other athletes. And just this kind of joy is very nice for me.
Martina, can you tell us about what this running camp is like for all of you athletes to get together once early in the season and like put in these miles together and spend time with the group? You've kind of been on both sides of it, documenting it before, but now you're living it as an athlete. What's it like to be together?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to just hang out and just meet and talk with the other athletes and share what everyone has been up to in winter. Like lots of us have been skiing, lots have been running and racing already. So we definitely don't go to the camp all prepared at the same level. I talk for myself at the moment I just came from skiing and biking, and I know this is not ideal, but I just know that it's gonna be painful and I'll be sore for a few days, but then it's great to be in such a group of people because it's like you really feel the support even when you're like struggling a little bit because you're not fully prepared for what's ahead. And it's just it's always an experience to learn and to discuss products and testing, especially because there's always like you really need to be sure to have things dialed at the beginning of the season in order to have a good season.
And you do a lot of skiing, biking, etc. A couple of years ago, you did a massive bike tour. Will you continue to do this sort of mixing training leading into the season?
I don't know. I'm really bad at planning. Or I mean, I'm good at planning, but it's just like probably bad planning for races. But for enjoyment, I'm really good at planning. So sometimes like the enjoyment is like I want to reach the enjoyment much more than performance, but I'm trying my best to try to do both now. And yes, I'll have hopefully some good rides and some good races. So yeah, I still want to try to navigate the both also because I think just being able to mix and switch between sports while it's chemo or like cycling or any other sport, it keeps me healthier and more excited about trail running and running.
On that note, Christian, a question for you is what the transition has been like in training from pro cycling to ultra trail scene. Is it similar, and what's been the toughest part? And apparently there's a friend, your old cycling mentor, Matt Hansen, says hello. I don't know if that's an inside joke.
Yeah, sort of, I guess.
To the question.
The transition was brutal. I mean, it was very difficult. As a cyclist, obviously you become aerobically very strong, but physically not necessarily so much. And the transition to running was very difficult for me. It took me at least a couple of years to get to a point where I feel that I can only run. I mean, I think a lot of people here are using cycling as a secondary sport, and are still continue to do so. And for me right now, I feel like I just want to run. And but it's taken me years to be able to do that. And then last year was the first year where I felt it kind of clicked and felt like I was able to do what I needed to do to be able to be competitive as a runner. So yeah, I mean, it was difficult, but I'm super excited to keep trying to grow and spend time with all these legends and see what we can accomplish.
Marianne, I did not forget about you. You have a strong triathlon background. How does competing in trail running compare to competing in triathlons?
It's very different, but I think that the one thing that's very different is the mentality. I think triathlon is very number focused, and it's not necessarily the environment that I thrived in. I much prefer the ultra trail running approach that is more about feeling and how the training is more about volume and spending hours on your feet, whereas triathlon was a lot more focused on specifics that wasn't necessarily something that was motivating to me.
And I'll start with you on this next question to the women. How important is it for each of you to be a role model to other female athletes with people like Courtney, as the question says, Camille Hare and Jasmine Paris have been making headlines with these crazy performances. Do you feel like we're heading into this, or we are in this golden age for women's running?
Yeah, I mean, I think Courtney is paving the way for that. All these women that you mentioned, I think that it would be really good for us to be in the time where we don't have to mention it anymore, and it's just a notion of equality, and it would be really nice to have higher participation rates for on the start lines. That's really what I would like to see, and it's really good to see these stories come out to encourage women to participate, because I think that's really, I think women have a lot of things to show and to show the world, and when they take part in an ultra trail. So yeah.
Anyone else? No. Okay. Question for Francois. You are taking aim at a much longer race this year. Question is, how do you feel like this is going to suit you, this longer distance race? And how will you prepare differently for that?
I hope it suits me. No, I don't know. This is why I want to do that. I think I'm not sure I will change a lot my preparation, but I will change my race plan and my race pace for sure. Otherwise, I think I won't be able to finish. And now the idea is really to change a bit my mind and to discover that race and that long distance, which call me since many years now. And I'm very, very motivated with this new season. And I think it will be a nice loop, and I hope there will be a lot of adaptation to do and a lot of experience. And I'm sure I will learn a lot during this 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I don't know.
Thanks. And Courtney, a question for you about the season to come. After your first race of the season was Trans-Gran Canaria. How are you feeling after that? How many kilometers are you putting in per week? And is there a big difference planning for this year versus last year, where you packed a lot into a 70-day span? Maybe people heard. What's your approach like?
I am feeling good after Trans-Gran Canaria. It was a fun way to kickstart a year full of what I hope will be lots of mountains. So tons of climbing, using poles, going through nights. And that will be kind of how I shape this season, instead of last year where it was a lot of variety and packing in quite a few races. So I'll head to Mount Fuji 100 at the end of April, and then Hard Rock 100 in the middle of July, targeting just getting to Hard Rock as ready as possible to make a big loop through the mountains as well as I can.
And then, who's looking? Oh, question for Lucy. Feedback on the Lucy's Dad film. How have you received all that, and what's been the feedback from that inspirational Salomon TV episode?
Yeah, it's been really, really beautiful, the feedback on Lucy's Dad. I mean, it was a film I would rather maybe not have been made. It was meant to be just a short little reel on Instagram that kind of blew up as it unfolded. But it's been really cool to see how relatable and inspiring and motivating it is for people. So I know that my dad appreciates it, and the amount of comments and messages and people that come up to him. And it's kind of been flipped that now I'm known as Ash's daughter. So it's really cool to see that as well.
Okay. Mathieu, there's a question to you. If you would be at UTMB this year, and if not, major goals you might have before Diagonal in October.
As I said before, it's a new year for me, as I don't want to race every 2 months as I did for the last 5 years. I don't want to regret when I arrive at the end of a big race like UTMB or Diagonal that I didn't train enough smartly to give my best. So this year I will put my heart on the Diagonal des Fous. And it's in October. It's super far, and it's difficult when you love running to don't run that much before to arrive super fresh as this race. So I will decide during the race. For sure, I won't race 10 races this year. I will start with a local race, which will be the maxi race in Annecy. I never did this, and it feels cool to run all around the lake. And then during summer, I will see how I feel with my mental, my physical feelings. and if I will be able to add UTMB before diagonal to try this combo, because I still love to do big challenges. But if I feel that I'm not enough strong in my mind and my body to run UTMB, I will do another race in August, maybe with less media, with less kilometer, and then I will be more able to run fully with my full heart to diagonal. So I don't know yet for UTMB. I will decide during summer, depending how I feel.
Okay. Question for Ryan. You've been ultra running for a long time now. Not calling you old then, but just curious what you think of the performances we've seen from people over the last couple of years. You've competed in these races for a while. Did you think we would see the level we're seeing now, where like the top of the charts is really, really fast and really competitive?
Yeah, it's been really cool to see the last couple of years just how our performances have improved. But I think the sport in general has evolved a lot, and that's been really cool to see, and for it to get a lot more professional. So yeah, it's been cool to have been around for a while. And yeah, I think it's getting harder and harder for young up and coming guys. I think the level's just getting so high, and in order to like win something like UTMB, you really got to kind of have a magic day and really kind of have a long build up.
Can you, while you have the mic, just tell us what you have planned coming up? You're in the middle of your summer right now, so I guess it's running season for you, but where are you? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so my plans this year will be Val d'Aran by UTMB in early July. I'm going to do the 100k or 110k, and then I'm going to go back to UTMB, have one more go there. And then also, post UTMB, I've got a smaller project I'm going to do back home in South Africa, traverse of a mountain range.
Cool. There's a question for everyone. I'm going to ask it to Martina, which is, how do you manage your recovery and avoid injury between races? I guess as ultra runners, you guys know what injury is about. So this is someone, I think, looking to share tips with their media, with the people that follow their media.
Yeah, I'm not the one who's racing the most here, but yeah, I think like the best thing is taking care of your body. Like even when you think you are recovered, most times it's like you need more time. Of course, like the recovery always depends on how fit you are and how well you train before a race. So the less prepared you are for a race, the more you have to pay after the race. So, but I would say I would suggest to just, in doubt, just rest a little longer rather than just go back to training too soon. And of course, other than just magic tools or recovery boots or stuff like that, it's more like sleeping, eating, and just disconnecting from what's even just social media, keep on following running races and results. It can still take can be energy draining. And so if you are fully on recovery, I think it's just completely detach from social media and really take good care of your body is, it's a good advice, I think.
Anyone else have any pearls of wisdom on this topic? Or recovering from injury?
No, I think it's more recovery between races is something, but planning and anticipating and choosing your calendar is, I think, even more important. And we speak about environment, we speak about LC, we speak about pressure, media, everything. So I think, since many years, the top athletes don't arrive to have 10 good results in a year, it's sure. So in ultra trail, of course, you cannot do 10 races a year. You can have some big challenges, but you have some high, some year a bit lower, and you have to understand that and to try to plan it and the most you can anticipate it, then your body, your mind is prepared for it, and it's a way more easier to avoid injury, I think.
I'd stick with you, Francois. There's a question. I know you love hard rock. There's a question about going back to the PCT for another FKT attempt in the future. Does this appeal to you?
Yeah, it's a crazy trail. It's so nice, very beautiful. I was able to do the John Muir Trail, which is just a very, very short part of the Pacific Crest Trail, and it was incredible. Then I made an attempt on the north section, but it was a bit too late in the season, so we get stopped by the snow. But yeah, of course, I hope I will be back there. I don't know if I can do a fastest snow time on that because it's very long and you have to have a lot of week in front of you. But for sure, I will be back on that trail, maybe with friends or family. And yeah, it's just so wild. It's so incredible. And yeah, in France we have a magic trail like UTMB. We have GR20, which is so hard and so technical, but it's 180k. And Pacific Crest, you have 4,500k. It's just incredible.
For Marianne and Christian, can you talk a little bit about what you plan to run this season? There's a question about also whether you might compete in Whistler at that race, the UTMB in Whistler.
No, not on my part. I will be doing Transvolcania in May, and then I will be racing Swiss Canyon in June. And then I'll be heading over to Hard Rock to pace our teammate Camille, who is doing the race. And then hopefully I will be on the start line of UTMB.
Also, at the moment, no plan to race in Whistler. No real plan to go back to Canada at any point next year. It's and be focusing on Snowdonia, 100 kilometer in beginning of May, and then focusing on UTMB with probably one more race in between somewhere. But yeah, try to build up the best we can for the summer.
Okay, we heard from most everyone else, but Martina, Lucy, can you tell us what your race plans are? You're not a planner, we know, but maybe you have something in mind.
Yeah, I just got confirmation of my registration for Mute in when?
In 3 weeks.
Yeah, Francois is reminding me this because I just started running, so he's really nice and just like not putting pressure. So yes, Mute is in the plan, and then I'm doing a race, an 80k race in Lofoten, the island out of Norway. Is the beginning of June, and then I'll be over to the US for July, and I will probably do Speedgoat 50k, and that's gonna be my last race before UTMB, second try.
I head back to Australia after this camp, and then I will probably line up at Ultra Trail Australia, the 100k, and then it's kind of all roads to UTMB. And what happens in between there, I'm not sure. There is maybe an Ironman, but yeah, just a whole lot of training and a lot less racing for me this year.
Matthew, there's a question for you about doing a lot of ski mountaineering this winter, focusing on strength training and less on endurance. What do you expect from this preparation that you've done?
First, it was about discovering a new way to live in the mountains. It's the first time for me in my life. I used to live in the city for the last 20 years. For sure, ski mountaineering is a really nice sport, and we try to tell the story about this sport because I love trail running because being in the nature in the mountain is beautiful, but there is another way in winter to enjoy the mountains, and ski mountaineering is really nice for this. We are still not in the performance way, but more in the discovering way about this sport because it's a little bit more dangerous, I feel, than trail running, and we love it, and I feel very good. It's a way to regenerate your body and your head actually as well, and I was very inspired by athletes like Francois, who tell that it's important to take a little bit to be a little bit far from running sometimes during the year to create something that you want to come back to running in spring. And it's good to refresh your head, and this is exactly what happens. I really want to know now to run in April, and I never feel that I want to run that much since I started to run. So it works, and you are doing something that you don't. I think you don't waste time, and maybe you improve your strengths, maybe your endurance as well. So yeah, I don't know what to expect, but hopefully I will have a good season after the mountaineering 4 months winter season.
Okay, a kind of random question for you, Courtney. This is about music. Between Queen, Prince, Backstreet Boys, and Whitney Houston, you're a fan of the 80s. Is there a particular energy about this that you enjoy that's connected to fun? Like, is this what you listen to when you're running? This is maybe a question for all of you. If there's particular music you play during a race, that's a long playlist, if there is.
That's a really great group of artists that you just named. Thank you. They're all on my running playlist, and I don't listen to music always when I'm running, but I'll save it during a really long race as a way to give me that joy and that boost, put a different soundtrack in my head than maybe what's playing, or just create like a bubble around myself where I can just focus on taking the next step. And the music that's on that playlist is all music where I know the words to the songs so that I can sing along, because that gives me a lot of joy.
I have a question about crewing. I know a lot of you, probably all of you, have crewed in some form or fashion for other runners or teammates. Curious what you've learned about running as an athlete from being on the outside looking in. Is there anything you learned from that, from crewing for your fellow athletes?
Crewing is hard. The running part might be the easier part. You can just focus on your forward motion, and the crew is juggling all the gear, thinking of driving to the next aid station, trying to interpret your body language or your face and what might be the exact thing to spur you forward. But it's been super fun. I've gotten to crew my husband Kevin quite a few times, and I just try to be as good at crewing as he is for me. And so far I'm falling short of it, but I'll keep trying.
Question for Lucy. This says, back in November, you posted some brilliant words on Instagram around being grateful for your body and the freedom of not focusing on what you look like. How important do you think it is to the current and future trail running community to keep having these conversations that hopefully shift the narrative around body image?
Yeah, I think it's super important. I think, we're at a space now with women in running that we want to be inclusive. And the whole thing around a runner's body is you have a body and you run, it's perfect. And so I think that having that conversation has been really important for me and my journey. It's kind of like I want to be a good representation, a good role model for young girls. And, if you see it, then you can believe it kind of thing. And so I think it's really important for brands and media outlets and everyone to celebrate from the front of the pack to the back of the pack and everyone in between. So it's a really important conversation that I think in the sporting world is, needs to be talked about more. But it's starting to really get some strength in there. And I think that, the women sitting on this panel and in Salomon, what's happening internally, there's some really good conversations and changes that are being made.
There's a question around the accomplishments that all of you have had, and also sort of where the sport is. So I'm just trying to interpret this, and so it's framed to Courtney that so you did the Triple Crown last year, whereas if you had won, say, marathons in London, Berlin, and New York in a year, you might be well known beyond the running scene. So not just to you, but to anyone who wants to answer this is. Trail running or ultra running is still widely perceived as kind of a niche sport in a way. Is that good to you, or does it disturb you that the sport isn't like massively in the public eye? Like the sport has clearly grown, but are you happy with where it is, or would you rather it was super well known to the general public?
I think it's a special sport because you can find every type of race out there. You can find the UTMBs where it's a huge energy-filled, like week-long event, and then you can find, the backwoods, like draw a line in the sand and everyone just starts running when someone yells. The really chill vibe ultras. So I think having all of the options out there make it where we can find the part of the sport that resonates the most with us right now. But the growth is really exciting, and I do find that more and more now, people, if you say you run an ultra, they know what it is, whereas maybe 10 years ago, they would wonder what an ultra was at all, because they had never heard of the sport. So it's becoming a little more common, for sure.
Yeah, and I think just on that, like, the sport of trail running as a whole is really well known, and like ultra running is a niche of that. And I think it's really important that we make sure that, we're ultra runners, but it's not what we do run sub-ultra distances. And I think that people, all you got to do is step onto a trail to be a trail runner. And you see the likes of what Courtney does and Jasmine at Barkley and these achievements which of grand scale, but that's not what's required to be a trail runner. I think doing the 100K, 100 mile and going bigger and bigger and bigger, just doing it at any level is really, really inspiring and really important. That it's cool to back up and to do big plans and big races, but there's nothing better than just going for a short jog, whatever that looks like to you, on the trails. And trail running itself is booming. Ultra running, it's a little bit more of a time commitment, but both are worthy of your attention.
Thank you. Related to that, a question for this side of the table about pressure and expectations. Courtney, Francois, Mathieu, Marianne, you've all had huge performances on big stages in ultras. It's the biggest races in the world. How do you deal with the expectations of that? And if so, how do you kind of manage it to keep your focus? Is it still about the joy of running on the trails?
When I start running and I start ultra trail, I was not expected being able to win an ultra like UTMB or Diagonal des Fous. And so each time for me it was like, oh, I'm so lucky, I'm so happy to do that. And so it's just a bonus. And I don't want to, even if I was able to win it 1 time, 2 times, maybe I can think, okay, I can go and try to win again. But it was not my goal. My goal was really to go back and try to do my best and to have a good race there. So I take time to go back on that different race. And winning is a nice thing, but it was never my goal. And my goal was really to do the best as I can in that adventure, in that ultra. And I think this is why you can win. So I try to be in that mood when I start a race and not thinking only victory, because there's many victory all along the way, and just being like injury free at the start line is already a victory, and passing the finish line is a victory. And when you can see the smile of the first finisher and all the runner at the finish line, we all won the race. So I think it's the most important thing in ultra trail, to be able to give the best of yourself that day. And I'm sure sometimes you win a race, but you are not happy with yourself, but you can have a very nice exchange and not fight, but race with some other people, and you are maybe more happy to finish second than just first without a good day. So I think it's a way for me to put out pressure. And I'm just happy to choose the race and to decide what I want to do and which race I want to do. And with that, you don't have any pressure.
Sure. I'd like to add that for me, it's all about the process, and I have a lot of joy in the process, and the outcome of the race result is just what it will be, and I like to feel like pressure is a privilege and we get to control how we react to pressure. And so I just want to make sure that throughout this whole process I'm still enjoying myself, and regardless of what will happen on race day, I'll be happy that I spent my year being the best ultra runner I can be. And if whatever outcome is on race day, it is what it is. And I think we all need to remind ourselves, especially for the sport of ultra running, because it is such a long endeavor, you need to be having a good time doing it, because if you're only doing it to win, I think it would be very miserable to be out there for such an extended period of time.
Anyone else? Anything to add on that subject? Anything we should have asked? You're roasting up here, and I thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, but thanks to all the athletes for their time here. I know you got a busy few days. Best of luck this season to all of you, wherever you are, competing or just running on the trails for fun. So, yeah, thanks again. Appreciate the time. Thanks, everyone. Everyone online who tuned in, we'll put together a kind of package of the responses here and transcribe everything and send it out to you through our local agencies in the coming days. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks, guys.
Back in the days.